All right, and then finally, very quickly, we're just going to cover how to output files. So there is a couple different ways that you can output. So again, you can either do this kind of generic approach, and this is just analogous to the custom reading from the file. So this works if you want to create an unstructured file. So if you want to create a file that doesn't have structure, like a text file. And so again, we use this open function, and we specify the name of the file. And now we have to also add this argument, this positional argument called W, that is W, and that W just stands for write. You can also use R for read. So if you just want to read a file, you would use R. If you want to append to a file, similar as we saw at the command line with the double brackets, you can also append to a file. But here we're just going to write to a file. And so this tells it to create an object that is the same as before, but it can write to a new file. And so we continue to use this print function, print adding data to a file. So whatever we want to add to it, we just add the string that we want to print to it, and now we use again this file argument. So we encountered this file argument before when we wanted to print to either the standard in or the standard out or the standard error. And so if you want to print to a file, so instead of sending this to the console, this is going to actually print to the file that you've already opened. And you can do this as much as you want. And then at the end, you should simply close the file once you're done printing to it. And so now we look, and all of that data that we've printed is within that file. And if you want to so now we have this data frame object. So again, the same way that you want to use specific modules to read data of certain types, you also want to use specific models to write data of specific types. So if you want to write a CSV file, there is a built-in function of data frame. So if we look at any sort of data frame that we use, there's these functions called toCSV. So you can actually send it to the clipboard, you can send it to a CSV, you can create a dictionary. So there's a lot of abilities to change, to manipulate data frames to become specific objects. You can to HTML, to JSON, et cetera, et cetera. But one of them is to CSV. And so if you want to save this as a CSV, so we've loaded this from the web, and we just need to give it a name. So we'll call it, ifr.csv. And then again, you can specify the separator that you want to use. If you want to do it to Excel, there's actually a couple ways to do that. So you can also simply just use this Excel to Excel. To Excel right here. The only issue with that is that, and so you no longer indicate what the separator is. So again, you have to make sure that you have the appropriate dependencies. So kind of install And so just to go over this, the only issue with using this function by itself in order to save an Excel file is that one of the things about an Excel file is that you can actually have multiple worksheets in the Excel file. So if you don't care about that, if you're fine with just having an Excel file that only has a single worksheet, then you can simply use this function. And it looks like actually this is new, but it looks like this approach is no longer going to work in the future. But for now, you can continue to use it. So if you want to write multiple worksheets, you have to open what is called a writer object. And so this is a part of pandas, and you just give it a name, and then again, instead of giving it a file name, you write this to the writer object, and then you also specify the name of the sheet that you want to save this to. And then once you're done, you save it. And now we have these things. So so you notice we have this ifr.csv file. So that takes all of the data that we had before. And then we can also open some of these files that we created. So we created a ifr.xls file, and so this is a single sheet that contains the data. And then we also created this Python export, and so now you notice that we have 3 different sheets because we specified to save it 3 different times. All right, so that's the basics of writing, and just remember, every module that you use, every file type that you use is going to have its own specific module that knows how to open it and knows how to write it. And so you just need to figure out how to use that for the specific module type that you're using.